for inoperable lung cancer. Keisha started learning about caregiver resources to share with other caregivers, which is just a great thing that, what you've done, Keisha. And as far as Dave, Dave comes from a family with over 100 years of service in the U.S. Army. He joined Fisher House Foundation in 1994 after retiring from the Army, I'm sorry. That's the family too, right, Dave?
Well, I'm the junior member of the family business. My father served for 35 years.
Yeah, let me finish. I made a mistake. I just want to let me finish because you got Fisher House is a home away from home for families of patients receiving medical care at major military and VA medical centers. And since 1990, Fisher House Foundation has served over, get this, 400,000 families, saving them over $500 million, enlarging in transportation costs. That is just great, Dave. Now, Keisha, Dave, go to it. Whatever you think.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely.
At the heart of our program is the network of now 86 Fisher houses, and we're working hard to open number 87 later this month up in Ann Arbor. But if you think about what Ronald McDonald houses do, allowing families to be there when their children are going through a medical crisis, Fisher houses do the same thing, but we focus on supporting military and VA medical centers. The average length of stay is typically 9 days. The longest length of stay we've had approaches 4 years.
Wow.
And it's just so important for the family to be a part of the process. To be with other families as well. These houses can accommodate anywhere from 8 to 21 families. And your focus is being there with your loved one. And then at the end of the day, you come back to the Fisher House and you're with others who are in similar circumstances. And you may see somebody who's a week or two further along in the treatment. And that gives you strength, it gives you stability, and it makes you stronger for the challenges that are going to come and that you're going to have to face the next day. But quite often in the military healthcare system, you find yourself far from home when you are receiving the healthcare. And the last thing we ever want is for you to have to decide, well, rule number one, when you get that call and you learn that a loved one is wounded, ill, or injured, you want two things. Number one, you want the best medical care. And the military and VA healthcare systems do a great job. But you also want to be there. And that's a little bit more of a challenge. And that's where we can come in and make a difference.
How long has the house been Fisher House been in existence?
Well, the program started in 1990, and it's called Fisher House because there was a man by the name of Zach Fisher. He's a real estate developer from New York, and he wanted to do something that would bless all the services. He heard there was a need for something like a Ronald McDonald House, and he said, "I'm a builder. I can do that." And so for the first 20 houses, he wrote a personal check to build them. And that's why the program carries his name. When he passed away in 1999, the foundation became responsible for the construction and furnishing and expanding the program to new communities.
And how many are there now?
There's 86, and on any given night, we can support up to 1,200 families.
There are 86?
86. We have one at the Hines VA Medical Center there in Chicago.
Okay.
And initially when Mr. Fisher started this, and it's a tremendous legacy. Our chairman today is his grandnephew, Ken Fisher, who's in the real estate development business in New York, but it provides his leadership skills to guide us through the challenges we're not only facing today, but in the future. But we have been blessed that initially the houses were there to support the military hospitals. Mm-hmm. And then we got a letter from a nurse in a VA, and it was the Stratton VA up in Albany. And she said, Mr. Fisher, I applaud what you're doing for the military, but, there's a tremendous need in the Department of Veterans Affairs for these kinds of facilities. Would you consider building one for us? And he said, absolutely, I can do that. And we contacted the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we said, okay, so where do you think you could use a Fisher House? And they came back and gave us a list of more than 70 places, and we went back and we said, okay, we're good. We're not that good. What are your top 10? and so when they gave us their top 10, that way we know we're investing in the right communities. And when we finish those 10, we ask for another list. And that's how we can help prioritize and make sure we're investing in the right communities.
So there are 86 now.
86 now. By the end of the year, I anticipate we'll have 91.
Wow, that is great. That is great. 91 by end of the year.
Now, Dave, that's 86 Fisher houses, but you also have is it 37 VA medical centers?
Well, more than 40 of those houses are supporting VA medical centers.
Oh, okay.
And what we do is when we build these facilities, we give them as a gift. And the gift is given to the Secretary of the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Department of Veterans Affairs. In return for the gift of a Fisher House, the Secretary agrees they'll operate and maintain that house in perpetuity, which lets us go and bless the next community. Now, we will always continue to support the houses and provide resources to them, but at the same time, it allows us to go and expand to the communities who have a recognized need, but don't quite have the resource yet.
Dave, give us a little background of your military service. I know you retired from the Army when?
Well, I took an early retirement after 15 years back in 94. I was a healthcare administrator.
Okay.
And at that time, they were reducing the numbers in the military, and at the same time, they were managed care was just coming in, and there were a lot of opportunities in the healthcare industry, and it was a good time. And then I had made the decision to retire, but Fisher House is something personal to me. When I was a young captain over in Europe, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer. Mm. And my father just happened to know the commander of Walter Reed. And my father called him up and said, Lou, my wife's been diagnosed with cancer. I'd like to get a second opinion. Who's got the best cancer program? And General Malone said, we do here at Walter Reed. I'll help make sure you get some appointments, but there's one condition. You're staying with me. And he opened up his quarters to my parents at a time when being in a loving, caring environment was special. And when I first heard about Fisher House, it just went off that, this is giving people the same opportunity that my family benefited from. Except you don't have to know the general. In fact, it's probably better if you don't. So I was stationed at Fitzsimmons, and we had received the gift of a Fisher House. And I learned that they were looking to start a national foundation. The program actually predates the foundation because this was something that Zach was going to do himself together with his wife, Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. And when I learned of the opportunity, I couldn't wait to be a part of it.
You know, Keisha, when you finally have served more than 400,000 families, that is just a great thing. How did you get involved?
How did I get involved with the Fisher House?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, when I was stationed in San Antonio, I remember the Fisher House at Walter Reed. And then when I got stationed in D.C. in the area at the Pentagon, I had an appointment over in Bethesda at the medical center over there, and I got a chance to see the Fisher House. I didn't go over there, but I got a chance to see it. So I've known about it. I've had one of my coworkers and one of my friends who has had relatives that had stayed at the Fisher House while she was being cared for. So I heard really, really good things about the Fisher House, honestly, from the very beginning.
That's just a great thing. Our call-in number, 312-374-8130. I'm Cliff Kelly. This is America's Heroes Group. It's just great when people reach out and do that sort of thing because there's so many people who need that kind of help. Right, Dave?
Well, it is. When you think of the military, they need to be concerned about having the beans, the bullets, and the bandages. And this is something that, gosh, Zach always said, these people are my guests. And so when you walk through the door of a Fisher House, we want people to know that their service is appreciated, that it's honored, and that there are people who want to help them in their time of need. And the government just wouldn't do it the same way.
When you say it, that's interesting, Dave. When you say the government wouldn't do it the same way, tell us what you mean by that.
Well, when you walk in, these are upscale houses. Again, Zach said these are my guests. They'll be kept to my standards. So when you go into the kitchen, it is ground zero of that house, as it is in so many houses. Mm-hmm. And you have two sets of everything. You have a huge granite countertop and an aisle in the middle. And on the right side, typically you'll have 4 Sub-Zeros. 3 of them are refrigerators. One's a freezer. It's those normal daily activities. When you get that call, you don't know what the future holds. You're concerned.
Sure.
And it's getting that cup of coffee and talking to somebody, finding out where they're from, how long they've been there, and sharing your story with them. That just makes it feel like home. It's in a Fisher House, you simply have an extended family and somebody who you can share the joys with, and you also share the burdens and the sad times and the family's bond. I've got to give credit to all of our managers because the managers of these houses, they are our hands, they are our hearts, and they've got to be mom, they've got to be the translator, because when you get a piece of paper and they say, okay, take the 2394 and go down to building 1232, and number one, you're in a place you're not familiar with. Mm-hmm. This isn't an installation that you're comfortable with. And just because the patient is military doesn't mean that their loved one is. Many times it's mom or dad who have no experience around the military. We have had birthdays, we have had anniversaries. We try to make every holiday special, and we've even had a couple of weddings at the Fisher House.
That's great. when you bring that up, Dave, you're right. We just presume that everyone involved has some military background, and that certainly is not the case.
Well, it's and Keisha knows.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special place, a special environment. Yeah. In the military, you make friends quick, mm-hmm. and you know that they may be transferred out. So you bond just a little quicker, I think, than mm-hmm. most people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I wanted to note in this conversation, I think we said it earlier about in terms of the Fisher House, how they helped with over $500 million of out-of-pocket expenses for family members,
mm-hmm.
In terms of like with their hotels and flights for the families that are staying there. And that alone, because finances is such a big concern when you're trying to care for a loved one and when you have to go somewhere and stay, whether it's out of state or even your family come to stay out of state. That's very helpful. They're helping with out-of-pocket expenses. They also have a grant to help for scholarships, I believe, as well.
Yeah, scholarships.
We actually have 3 scholarship programs, one mm-hmm. for military spouses, one for the sons and daughters of those who serve, and then also our Heroes Legacy Scholarship Program, which is for those who lost a parent in service or their parent has become 100% disabled. And oftentimes that's a population that's forgotten. Last year, we gave out a little over $3 million in scholarships.
Boy, you folks are doing a great job. That's for sure. Anything else you need to let us know about before we close out?
Well, with the COVID response, this is a tough time. Our country and in fact the world has never been challenged like this, and
right.
And there are an awful lot of heroes. The people who work in grocery stores, the truck drivers, the mm-hmm. delivery people, mm-hmm. but our healthcare workers, the doctors, the nurses, the respiratory therapists,
wow.
are just doing an amazing job. And we salute all of them. What we're finding with the COVID situation, at both military and VA medical centers right now, they're greatly limiting the number of visitors. They've got to protect the patients. They've got to protect the staff. And so to adjust some of our programs, we're sending out gift cards to the houses because volunteers used to come in and fix a meal for the families. Mm-hmm. Well, volunteers can't come in anymore, just out of concern for the number of folks.
I want to thank you both. You're doing a fantastic job. Keisha Jackson, Dave Coker, thank you so much for joining us. Fisher House Foundation. Keep it up, all right?
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you, Dave. I look forward to having Dave back on again.
We'll look forward to it.
Thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Cliff.
All right. Take care now. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Cliff.